Hi, my name is Eduardo Ox. I'm the author of an MX package called EV. And the main idea behind EV is that you can save executable nodes for everything that you do, and you can share these nodes with other people, possibly by putting your nodes on the web. All the material about this video is going to be in this page here, and the title of this video is Running Executable Nodes from my homepage, which is this one, with find-angg and find-wget. Let me explain what this means. Oh, by the way, this image is totally unrelated to the presentation. It's just one of my favorite CDs ever. Let me use a smaller font here. These are the things that I'm going to present. I put all my executable nodes on the web, practically everything. I mean, just a couple of files that I don't put there. Most of my nodes are in these files with .e at the end in this directory here. If we visit this directory, let's wait 1 second because it needs to open Google Chrome. We see that it contains many files. Some of them end with just .e, and some of them end with .e.html. And the ones with .e.html are converted versions. We can see this header here that explains that this is an HTMLized version, and here you have a link to the original version without the .html, and here you have a very messy page explaining the conversion rules. 1 second, let me go back. So I'm going to show how to execute executable nodes from my site, and I'm going to use one specific example that is in my notes about Maxima. Maxima is a program for doing symbolic computation and numeric computation and graphics and lots of things from mathematics. And my day job is as a teacher of mathematics, and so I've been using Maxima a lot. I started using it a few months ago, and I'm finding it really fascinating. So my nodes are in this file here. If we open it in the browser, we are going to see that it has some strange characters here. My site doesn't even recognize that this thing is UTF-8, and so some characters look really wrong. But if we download a copy of this with the wget, everything looks right. Actually, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to run wget to download a copy of this thing, and in a way that sends the output to the standard output. And I'm going to put this output in a temporary buffer. So this sexp does that. It takes a few seconds, and then it downloads this file here. You can see here the command, more or less the command that was run. This is an abbreviation because it doesn't say exactly the command line arguments that were used. But you can see that these characters appear right. The red stars also appear in the right way, and so on. And note that when I'm in my machine, I can access the local copy of this file with this sexp here. This other sexp here is an abbreviation to the previous one. So this one essentially runs the same thing. It adds a tiled slash to the beginning, and this third one is an abbreviation to this one. So it takes this string, it adds a home /e/ to the beginning and a .e to the end. So all these three are more or less equivalent, but there's a detail here. When we call these two sexps here with other arguments, these arguments are interpreted as the tags in anchors. So if I run this, if I run just this, let me make a copy here. If I run just this, this argument here says that we need to start at the beginning of the file and then look for the first occurrence of this string. And it is here on line 112. And if we run this other sexp here with find-angg, this thing here is converted to an anchor with these characters here at the beginning, at the end, and at the end. And this sexp searches for the first occurrence of that anchor in the file. So it goes to this section here. And this is the example that I'm going to show in a few seconds. This other one is equivalent, is an even shorter form of this one. So it points to this example here. And let me show what this example does. If we type F8 here several times, the F8s on the lines that start with red stars will set up a target buffer here running Maxima. Here we just got a new Maxima session here, and the F8s on lines that do not start with red stars will send these lines to Maxima, and Maxima will run each of them. So here I'm doing some tests, then I'm going to define a few functions, then I'm going to run plot2d that shows a two-dimensional plot of one of the functions that I've defined. And then here I run plot3d that displays a 3D plot that I can rotate in several ways. So these files are on my machine, and in principle, if you want to find these nodes at the internet, you need to visit this thing here on a browser. Note that this anchor here, this anchor here is in green, which is a convention that I use to indicate that this thing here was converted to an anchor. So this hash 2021 choose 3 diagnomes, etc. points exactly to this anchor. If we run either these or this find-wget here or the second one, we get wget downloads the HTML file, which is not exactly what we want, because it has these headers here, it has some things that for humans are usually garbage. But if I run this find-wget A here, it will download a copy of this thing here, which is the version without the HTML, the version that is not converted to HTML. And the A here means to look in this temporary buffer, in the temporary buffer with the output of wget, for the first occurrence of this anchor here. So let's test. It opens the output of wget blah 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 of this file with maxima.e at the end, not maxima.e.html, and it opens this section here. Note that this is a temporary buffer. We haven't downloaded a copy of these maxima.e, but even this being a temporary buffer, we can execute these things by just typing F8 several times. So if I type F8 here, in this temporary buffer, this is not a file, these three the first three F8s create the Maxima session here, and then the other F8s send comments here, and this comment here shows a nice 2D plot, and this one shows a very nice 3D plot. So these are my notes on a specific thing on Maxima, a demo of how a function looks. And so you can run this demo without having to download this file. And this is what I mean with the title. This is a way to run my executable nodes from my site with find-wget. Let me now show something else. I showed that when I run these, I run something that opens the local copy of this file. It opens this file here, and when I run this thing here, I open this local file and I look for the first anchor with this thing between the double angle brackets. Oops. But here is a trick. If you're not on my machine, you can use this thing to access, to make find-angg behave in another way. This thing here will create a temporary buffer with lots of instructions and executable things. And this first block explains that this prog-n here is how I defined find-angg and find-es on my machine to point to local files. And here's a comment about how this thing searches for anchors and so on. And this second section here explains that in this prog-n here, if we run this prog-n here, it will redefine find-angg and find-es in ways that use find-wget a to download these files with wget into temporary buffers, and they will look for if there are extra arguments here, like anchors and other strings and so on. This function will search for that anchor and the other strings after that. Let me first explain what I mean by other strings. If I execute these, the find-wget a searches for this anchor, and if I add this to the sexp, this is a word in Portuguese, sejam, means let. Then this sexp here will first search for an anchor with this name, and then for the first occurrence of the word sejam after that. So it goes to this position. Anyway, let me go back. We were here, and the thing is that if we run this prog-n here, it will run these two defuns that will redefine find-angg and find-es in a certain way. And after running these defuns, find-angg will run find-wget a with the right arguments, and find-es will run find-wget a with the right arguments. So if we run this, we redefine find-angg and find-es. And now if we run, for example, this sexp here, it will run wget, it will download this, it will download this URL here and spit the output to the standard output, and find-wget will show that in the temporary buffer, and in this case this thing will search for the first occurrence of this anchor in this file. So this is a temporary buffer with a copy of this file from my site, and this find-angg search for this anchor here. And this find-es here does the same thing, it's just a bit shorter. So it runs find-wget in a certain way and searches for this anchor here. And then we can run this thing here. Let me run it again just because it's nice. Here we have our 2D plot, and here we have our 3D plot that we can rotate in very nice ways, blah 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 blah. So my notes are very hyperlinked with lots of links like this one that points to another file in this directory here, and to a certain section, and usually to sections in these files using anchors. And if you run this block here, you'll be able to use these things even without being in my machine, because you'll replace the definition of find-angg and find-es by things that download local copies and show them in temporary buffers. And in this way, you can follow links like this to examples. And for example, if you're chatting with me on IRC, I can just send you a link like this to show, for example, how I do something in Maxima. And you can run this to download the local copy, show it in a temporary buffer, and then you can execute this to run the example. So this is an easy way to run examples without having to download anything. And in many cases, my executable nodes do not need any installation. They just need you to have some program installed. In this case, you just need to have Maxima installed. Usually something like this will do the job. Sudo apt-get install Maxima. This will probably install everything that you need to run this specific example. Yeah, so that's it. That's what I wanted to show. This page does not exist yet, but it's going to exist in, I guess, 1 hour or so. And there you're going to have nodes like this, and you'll be able to try some sexps like this and see if you can run the examples. And that's it. That's what I wanted to show. Bye.